You know, it's almost like your birthday with a package from China, so let's go. So the quality, that is one of the things that we do see some differences. If you don't buying an Ambernick, or let's say a Pau Kitty is a different story, but let's say an Ambernick, you know have quite a nice consistency when it comes to the overall quality. And with this weird kind of a brand, you never know. So first of all, we're going to get two analog joysticks, and they're not Halo or digital joysticks, they're just a simple analog joystick you find in your Switch. The only difference is when you're looking at the joysticks, we find that we don't have the click. So that's interesting. So first of all, the configuration of the buttons is not my favorite, let's say, configuration. Having two joysticks over here, let me know in the comments, do you play with the joystick or the D-pad? I'd really love to know. But when it comes to the D-pad, I'm a D-pad guy. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, the D-pad is one of the things that I play mostly when it comes to retro games. So here you do have this very long travel, but the feel, you have a very cheap click to it. But I'm very curious later on how this will evolve when it comes to, let's say, how it actually plays. So A, B, X, Y button, and also the buttons over here. Yeah, the positioning is not great, but also the way how it feels. Where I find it very cool having this nice color pattern. Yeah, the feel, you can see that it has a lot of wiggle room, and the travel of these things are absolutely horrible. And if you're just going to be playing, and yeah, you know, this is not the best configuration when it comes to the buttons. And then at the front we're having the select, the menu and the start buttons. They're just micro switched. At the left side we're going to having the on and off switch over here and the reset if you have any problems. With the X60 went for only two back buttons, so that's a quite interesting and very strange choice. We have a physical volume control at the right, and here we're having, let's check if I didn't turn it on accidentally, and the SD card. But the SD cards they're using micro SD, but there's no brand whatsoever. And this can be an issue, because if they get corrupted out of nothing, yeah, it's a common thing nowadays. But how is it with the comfortability? So first of all, when it comes to the back buttons, they are micro switched, and they don't have any travel whatsoever. Not a bad thing in my opinion. Now, while handling the device itself, I must say they are easily reached, not to the point that you're going to be accidentally like touching them. But I'm just going to be honest with you, this sounds absolutely horrendous, and the emulation, it's just still a huge problem when it comes to Super NES. And I find it a little bit of a bummer, because this is not necessary when it comes to these cheaper devices. Let's get into the gameplay. You do see a lot of screen tearing going on. They also map the second joystick to the front facing buttons, another thing they're also doing with these cheaper devices. But beside the crazy screen tearing, the overall quality, I must say it's still playable in some way. So next up, let's see if we can actually have an okay emulation performance with Mega Drive, but also here we're going to get a shitload of screen tearing, and I have the feeling that it doesn't run on the full speed, where the audio is the same problem with a lot of emulators, or emulators at least, the cheaper handheld emulators. You can hear that there's no stereo sound coming out of this thing. In my opinion, a little bit of a bummer. So when it comes to Mega Drive, Okay, so next up, let's try another cool game, and yep, the NES, every single freaking like game I'm booting up has a shitload of screen tearing. Another thing I wanted to check out is if they implemented turbo buttons, but they didn't do that with this particular emulator. Because with the NES you're only going to need two buttons. But when it comes to the overall performance and the speed of the game, there we don't have any problems, but we do still have a lot of screen tearing. Okay, next up, let's try MAME, just to see how it actually runs, but so far I can see there is no screen tearing going on, and the overall emulation part is quite nice. So when it comes to the D-pad, the positioning I really hate it, but when I'm actually playing, it's not that bad in my opinion. You can navigate through the stage no problem whatsoever, but the resistance of this D-pad is quite high, so my opinion also makes it less comfortable to play. But it seems to be that actually the main run's pretty good, so that's awesome. So where we're going to see a lot of great performance with main. I'm quite disappointed to see that they completely dropped the ball with Neo Geo, Arcade and VS. You can just hear the audio is not like it's supposed to be. But the overall gameplay, it's still, let's say, playable, but this is actually not the way how you want to experience these old cool games. Alright, so... especially when you're listening to the sound of the Go, there you can actually hear that it is sounding absolutely off. Another system I wanted to see running great is GBA, and they finally managed to not mess this up. The screen tearing is not that awful. It's still there, it's still noticeable. Maybe because of the speed of the game. Also the buttons have been mapped correctly, the A and B. So when it comes to the GBA playing on this, it's absolutely great in my opinion. Another test I wanted to check out is the art of fighting on Neo Geo. Where I heard a lot of like stuttering in the beginning of this actually like booting up the game. The game seems to be running just fine. Another great test is going to be the D-pad, and oh boy, this thing is absolutely great for fighting games. Look at this. Amazing! I'm just surprised actually how good this plays. Oh, is it going to be switching the D-pad to there? Oh, it's going to be absolutely a lot of fun playing on this. So next up, let's check out some other Super Nintendo games. And I've noticed when you check out some of the games, where they have a lot of frame drops, it actually runs pretty decent, actually getting into the gameplay itself. Oh, I'm going to get my ass whooped here. Oh man, no, 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 ah! Like I mentioned before, if you want to get into the TV out function, the thing that we need to do is go all the way to the settings menu. Here we find the TV out function, and with the TV out, you need to activate it yourself. And that is something that I find it quite annoying. And also quite a bummer, because there are cheaper devices out there in the same kind of price range that is a plug and play situation. Sometimes it takes forever to even load up, but it does it automatically. And with this, we just need to do it this way. And also, let's talk about the signal out. The signal output is pretty damn bad, and it still suffers from the same problem that when we're touching the cable, it will flicker and go nuts. And that's a little bit of a bummer in my opinion. We can fix it by pushing it in, but you need to be very careful. So if you just want to use this like a game controller and you wiggle it too much around, you're going to get a lot of distortion in your screen. I'm plugging into an LCD. It will also give, in my opinion, a great example how it will look. I can tell you on the CRT it will look slightly better, but oh boy, this is absolutely looking horrendous. Alright, so let's check out if we can actually play this game. The back buttons don't do anything. They mapped it to all the front facing buttons. So when it comes to Neo Geo, they did a great job with that. But again, it's a very cool idea to plug it in and have a game system and plug and play situation. The X6, I was surprised seeing the old school software again. And I can tell you that I'm disappointed that they still didn't fix the issues that we have with the previous models. The X6, it comes with not a hefty price tag. But with the, like say, fast pace of devices being released every month, these devices are, in my opinion, absolutely obsolete. And there are so many better choices out there if you're spending maybe like $10 or $20. Thank you all for watching. Consider subscribing, hit that little bell. And it will be great to see you in the next video.